Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and we are back to our almost normal schedule. We're combining ESVN OT and our regular episode this week, but we're back. We're back in studio. Hello, Bradley.
And I'm back!
Whoa!
Yeah! I have so much energy! I have so many things to say!
Oh, I can't wait for
guys.
that. Luckily, it's a mega episode,
What's
so you'll
up?
have a lot to say.
I have so much to say. And I just want to thank you again, Emma, for doing those fantastic solo episodes. And while you were on vacation, grinding through your vacation, through our time off, and giving me some time away. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I honestly didn't even plan on doing anything from my vacation, but the Damar Hamlin situation
Called
happened,
for it, yeah,
and I just felt that, like, I might as well go on, speak about that, and then give our locks on the show as opposed to just putting it on social media. We'll get into our locks in a little bit because Bradley did take the Bengals in that game. We're just gonna have to make that a push because there was no way to know.
The game obviously was just completely the non-continuance of that game was obviously completely second and third order to Damar Hamlin's health, but it definitely certainly short-circuited a lot of betting / fantasy implications in the last few weeks of the season. So
I mean,
it'll be inconsequential relative to what we end up doing. So, but it's all
my
good.
quarterback was Joe Burrow. My receiver was T. Higgins, and I was facing Josh Allen and Gabe Davis and Joe Mixon.
There's a whole lot of
in
players
the fantasy championship. And
I think my big fantasy league, literally the game hinged on Evan McPherson, so it was just like they split it.
Yeah,
like,
right. Well, that's what we ended up doing as well. And just a wild week.
Oh my gosh.
17 and then 18. But week 17 obviously overshadowed by the Damar Hamlin cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So we should talk about that briefly because it shook the league in a year that has been a really disastrous PR year for the NFL, given what has happened with Tua Tagovailoa, the multiple concussions that he suffered, the fact that he was able to play in that Thursday night game after clearly getting concussed on Sunday, the lack of disclosure about that, then the worst concussion where he was in the fencing posture, which then resulted in them also, the Miami Dolphins and the Spotters, missing the concussion yet again versus the Packers and him now being out for the playoffs. And plus the Damar Hamlin situation, the NFL has not had a good year in the way that it wants to present itself to the world and says it cares about player safety. Meanwhile, they were trying to see how that game could be and I know there's been a lot of backtracking, like, hey, no, that initial, like, get back to playing in 5 minutes thing, that was a little false. But make no mistake about it, the NFL was trying to get that game back on air.
Oh, yeah.
ESPN could not have been more over the top, particularly Adam Schefter in that panel, until he saw the public reaction. And I'm not like tooting my own horn, but my tweets got thousands of likes on this front. And I tweeted about it, and other people were tweeting about it. And as they went to break and they came back, and Adam Schefter then began to say,
solemnly holding his iPhone, I have no scoops to report.
This game, it cannot continue if the players don't want to continue. Before that, Schefter was saying, I don't know how the players can get back to resuming this game when it does resume.
Yeah, Susie Colbert, who I like, was also kind of like really in the mode of like only seeing it in terms of how will the game resume, what will the implications of the game not being played. The only person, and give him credit, he's not always the most cogent or astute announcer, but having a former player there in Booger McFarland was helpful in him being like, guys, like, that doesn't matter anymore.
Booger McFarland showed humanity, and I don't think Booger McFarland is an analyst who doesn't normally challenge power. I mean, that's why he's there.
Right.
He's
got a lot to go.
He's meme-ified for saying the same things, like the obvious things over and over again.
He's kind of like Magic Johnson with the
he is a former player.
Yeah.
And you see that humanity that he brought to that was lacking on the other side of the table. And I just that reaction really bothered me. Immediately, I said the game needs to be canceled. You see Josh Allen crying, holding his head in his hands. You see Stephon Diggs with tears streaming down his face. Like it was just not. There was no way that can continue. And I think the lesson that people can glean from this is, look what happens when players stand in solidarity with one another.
And a huge credit to Zach Taylor.
And Sean McDermott
for both of them, but at the very least, that when that guidance was given, Taylor had the right presence of mind to come over there and basically say, "What do you want to do?"
True.
Not basically, let's just basically deal with what the league has handed down to us. Like, what would you like to do for your players?
Right, and that was a beautiful moment of both teams coming together and players understanding these are our brothers. Like, you know, the league and the entertainment industry and the like ESPN or Fox or whatever, they want these guys to play with all of their heart. I mean, no horrible pun intended, but meaning that they want to see the passion and to use it for entertainment value. But that passion comes from this being these guys' profession, but them having love for their teammates and working alongside them and having that bond. That's what makes a great team, as cheesy as it sounds. And that same impulse and that same brotherhood was really what, stuck it to the NFL and said, we're not playing this anymore.
And
it was this moment of solidarity with workers and, frankly, management being the coaches.
And also, what I will say is, like, there were some former players and some people which more elegantly made this point than some others in terms of being like, this is not the point. This was not a point being made where it was like, oh crap, my parlay, or like, oh, like what's it gonna do for the home field advantage? Like, not in that vein was this point made, but there was a point made which I think is well taken, which is that there have been other really gruesome, really awful injuries across sports, specifically in college football and the NFL, where games have resumed relatively quickly after. I mean, Eric LeGrand, when he played at Rutgers, he was paralyzed from the neck down in a game, and they just started playing after he was carted off the field. What I think was important,
Joe Theismann.
Joe Theismann with a gruesome leg injury in the Super Bowl. What I think
that
is,
wasn't the Super Bowl.
It
was versus the Giants. Lawrence Taylor led the hit. So.
But was it a playoff game or another?
No,
it was just regular.
I'm
game?
not sure what it was, but it was.
It was just not the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I think the really clarifying thing with this was that a lot of the recovery, a lot of the adversity, a lot of the aftermath can be shuffled off the field in the cart, in a stretcher, in a gurney, and it can be then used or kind of laundered as so inspirational. They fortunately survived. They might be paralyzed from the neck down, but they're here. They are on the side. Here's Eric LeGrand on the sidelines, and I'm not saying they don't have free will, but I'm just saying, like, that's what the football industrial complex wants to take from those injuries.
Yep.
And it's harder.
And the aftermath of it, where they're having T-shirts with his number on it. I mean, what did that cost them?
The fucking Taylorist mass consumption of these T-shirts going to every single team in the league. But I think what the difference was here is that you couldn't stop the cameras from seeing an ambulance come onto the field. You couldn't stop the cameras, even though they obviously, to their credit, the teammates made a wall around Hamlin when this was happening. We were understanding that they were literally doing CPR, and that
for 10 minutes, his heart stopped. He died on the field.
This man's heart stopped on the field. You can't really wish that away when it's actually happening directly in front of you, and we all have a mutual understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think not only do I think I give a credit to the Bengals and the Bills for forcing the league's hands to not continue the game, I also think it was just. This was as unavoidable of an unavoidable thing as could possibly have happened to make it so that the NFL, a league that famously, they would literally do anything to make good on the revenue that they have from their TV deals, to have from their ads. They would literally move heaven and earth and not ever suspend a game for any reason that they had to do it at this time.
Yeah, I mean it was a It was a horrifying thing to witness in real time. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm happy he's okay. But it is from a PR perspective, Bradley, like just the whole I mean, they really got away with, I think, a lot of bad public relations by what did they pay? Probably $40,000 for hats and T-shirts across the league. And just because Damar Hamlin's okay, now the story is just going to be washed to the side. That they did a very good job of essentially ensuring that was not going to be the headline story for weeks to come. But overall, the NFL has had a bad year on that front. It's just, I'm just glad he's okay. But at the same time, remember when the league talks about player safety, that they were trying everything that they could to have that game resume.
100%.
Yeah. But another thing I wanted to touch on too is that the college football championship game happened over the weekend. It was a complete blowout.
It was
disgusting.
It was a massacre.
Oh, and by the way, like guys, Stetson Bennett is not a first-round pick. Please let's stop with this. Okay? He's the same age as Lamar Jackson.
And he's not even in the league.
He's not even in the league.
He also does happen to play like it's no coincidence that he also is on what might be literally the best team
it's an NFL
in college
team.
Football basically ever.
Yeah,
like two seasons in a row.
Stacked, and quit with this stuff about the quarterback from the national championship winning team is the first overall pick is a first round pick. Please,
whatever happened to AJ McCarron?
I mean, exactly, right? And he got so much hype coming in, and it's just that I feel that that's what made Tua a top 5 pick. We're about to do the same thing, I think, with Bryce Young. There's nothing to me from Bryce Young's game that makes me think he's going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I feel that he's too small. I know he has athleticism, but I think we're going to do the same song and dance when it's CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. I would take Levis and CJ Stroud over Bryce Young any day of the week.
I think I would definitely take Stroud over.
Definitely.
I think Levis will literally get knocked for like what we've talked about, like the whole like rawness situation.
Yes.
Like, and maybe ideally, I think also, of course, I think he goes to a team that will coach him in the right way. Like I actually hope he does not go to a like famously bad developmental franchise, guy like Levis. But I think Stroud is pretty not only pro ready, but also I just think I think he's more talented than Bryce. I get more excited watching Stroud than I do Young, even though I think Young is very like efficient. But I mean, efficiency I think is like I don't get excited by efficiency. I'm also of course these are all my personal biases, but I just think like I was watching Stroud play against Georgia. They almost won that game. They lost that game by 1 point.
Yeah,
he was keeping them in that game.
I picked Georgia to cover, so I was pissed off. But that's just kind of a side point. I just get really frustrated when people evaluate the quarterback based on team performance, and they do that in the NFL to a certain extent. But it's harder to have the quarterback be average and have success in the NFL as opposed to college football, where it really is just about if my guys are better than your guys.
100%.
For the most part, that's what's going to win you games.
Georgia had 5 to 6 bulldozing offensive linemen, and even the guy I would probably submit that I would have to look this up. I bet even their 6th through 11th guys on the second and third string were 4 and 5 star recruits,
and a superstar tight end who will be a top 10 pick next draft.
Honestly, like there are a few of these guys. Credit to some of these systems, man. I mean, when it comes to Ohio State and Georgia, I mean. A guy like Brock, like you said, a guy like Brock Bowers, a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., these guys should not have to wait another year. We know what they are. They're unbelievable talents. They should be on an NFL team next year.
And it's just also not to get back to my frustration about the draft hype machine and who gets on and who doesn't. Like, if this is all about winning, why isn't Max Duggan considered to be a first round pick?
That's not
because he's not a first round pick, and neither is Stetson Bennett. Right. So I mean, just please spare me with this kind of stuff. But TCU should not have been in the college football playoff.
I think it was tough.
I know they beat Michigan. That was a lucky situation. Michigan did not play their best game.
Oh, very clear. Yeah, I mean they had a good game plan for them. They had a good game plan for Michigan. Hung 50 points on them. I think there was
like half checked out.
There was a little bit. Well, I mean, clearly now that we're seeing where he's interviewing, but there was. I think there was a situation with Alabama being 5 that losing to Tennessee really. Was it? I think it was Tennessee. Did they lose to Tennessee? Alabama lost to Tennessee, and I think that really hurt them because Tennessee then had a few bad losses after that. So,
but did they lose to Tennessee when Hendon Hooker was still playing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's part of it, right?
100%. Yeah. Totally.
I mean, like that loss was when Hooker's was playing out of his mind at that point.
But I gotta say, I gotta get this guy's name. I think Tennessee is still pretty bright future. They have this backup quarterback who came in for Hooker, who also has a freaking cannon for an arm.
Yeah.
But I think there was a little bit of recency bias with the playoff that they thought that there would be a lot of blowback for not rewarding TCU for not having lost a game in the regular season, even though Alabama, for all intents and purposes, I mean, you have Will Anderson on your team, you have Bryce Young, like that team would have been eminently competitive against any of the other 3 teams in the playoff. Like it wouldn't. I don't think. Also, in terms of blue blood programs, I don't necessarily think anyone would have really batted an eyelash. I mean, sure, certain people would probably roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, here we go, they're favoring Alabama." But when is a college football playoff fair?
Yeah,
like
it's never been fair.
Yeah, when is it equitable? Like it's not. It's not the point. Like
it is different than being in the Big 12 and having that record, and then being Alabama and having the record that they had. Alabama should have been the 4th team in the college football playoff. I'm sorry, I know, but I feel that they were like the committee's bored by it to a degree. And I
gotta give, I think that's part of it, but I also, of course, give credit where credit is due to TCU. Like
yes.
Derek Hunsaker in the chat, they pointed out they didn't even have their top running back in the game. He was injured, put up over 50 on Michigan. Max Duggan had a great year, Heisman level year, coming in as a backup when their starting QB went down in the first week or 2 of the season. I mean, great story, great narrative, played really well, a really good team. I just think we probably would have loved to have seen, Alabama, Ohio State, or like Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, Michigan. I think from a pure ratings, pure aesthetics purposes, I think I would not have been upset to see any of those matchups.
Yeah.
Even seeing Nick Saban doing pregame coverage, I was like, this feels weird that he's like commenting on the games.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
It just felt weird to me. I don't know.
I mean, Alabama, Georgia would have been very fun. Although I don't know, maybe they would have ranked Alabama 4th, and then they would have had to play first. But I'm not exactly sure how it would have shaked out. But speaking of the Heisman, really quickly before we move off of college football, Caleb Williams. I'm not a scout, but whoa.
He's so good. I love him.
Is he like the best quarterback prospect that is agreed upon to be amazing since Andrew Luck?
Yeah.
Because Mahomes, that was not consensus, right? Has there been is he? I would say.
Yeah, but I also think he interestingly, I think also shows like he doesn't just have production or anything. He also is like clearly like an athletic freak.
That's the thing, and he has an arm. Which is what I always look for. Does this arm look like it can translate to the NFL? He has the size, the arm, the athleticism, the decision making. I mean, man, I know they lost to Tulane in that game, and hey, my mom and sister went to Tulane, so it was a pretty exciting game, but in the Cotton Bowl. But
oh yeah, they played really well. Yeah. Willie Fritz is an amazing coach. Like there's a reason. There's a reason he's not. There's a reason, unfortunately, he is no longer staying at Tulane because he got another job.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But Caleb Williams, I think, the interesting thing for me with him is like he has some Mahomes like traits like already. Like he already kind of has like the shiftiness,
improvisation,
the improvisational skills, the out of structure skills, while also being a freak athlete and have a cannon of an arm. I think a lot of teams will want to probably, they're going to want to probably be pretty bad to get Caleb Williams next year if you're an NFL team that doesn't have a whole lot to play for.
The Saints are tanking for Caleb Williams. That's my feel. If they bring back Dennis Allen, that team is so old and is not going to play well next year, I feel like. But that's a whole separate situation. Maybe we should go to the NFL.
Let's do it.
But anyway, I'm already obsessed with Caleb Williams. That's my take. All right, so quick rundown of Week 18. Not a fun week because when the NFL chooses to add games to their schedule, this is the kind of stuff they're going to get. More meaningless football. Yay. Miami Dolphins did not deserve to creep into the playoffs, but they did. I would have much rather seen the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are playing a much better brand of football at this point. But they're in with Skylar Thompson. Yay! 13-point underdogs in Buffalo. There's a few of these games that just bleh. Like, same thing with the Ravens. The Ravens earned their spot, even playing tough without Lamar Jackson. But that's going to be a yucky game. It doesn't even seem like Tyler Huntley is going to play. So I just don't really have any faith in that Ravens team, especially without Tyler Huntley and Anthony. What's the quarterback's last name?
Anthony Brown for the Ravens. Yeah. Third string guy, undrafted guy. Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Went to Oregon.
The AFC
wasn't good at Oregon.
No, not particularly.
Yeah.
The AFC playoff picture after giving the Lamar and Tua injuries is significantly, I think, a little bit.
Well, once we get past this
deflating.
round,
yeah,
that's fun, right? I mean, Lamar being out, I have no idea what's going on with Lamar. I'm prime Lamar fan, like huge Lamar fan. I have a Lamar Jackson t-shirt. It's the only non-Giants player t-shirt that I have in the football. Like, I am a huge Lamar Jackson fan. He seems to be holding himself out. Like, he had a PCL sprain, and that was 5 weeks ago. I think if he was not playing for his contract, he'd be playing. And my sense is the Ravens are going to get sick of this shit, dealing with him without an agent. He's wants to be paid more than Deshaun Watson. They're not willing to do that because that contract screwed up everything in the NFL, and they're going to tag him and trade him to the Miami Dolphins.
I'm curious, though, if that's the case with him being basically close to being healthy, because that would also make me think that that's happening in the sense of I could see if maybe there's a frustration because if that's the case where he's like basically where he's like closer to healthy than in terms of the spectrum of an injury of like after being held out for this long, and Tyler Huntley, their backup, is also out, I think that would pose a huge level of frustration for the team that he wouldn't. This is not me condoning players playing hurt, but I think sometimes players do kind of have the feeling of wanting to get in there, especially for a playoff game, even if they're not fully 100% doing it anyways. And especially when the option is Anthony Brown, it's not even Tyler Huntley, who kind of, while clearly, well, of course, not even remotely as talented as Lamar, has the same kind of play style as Lamar.
That's the best way, by the way, to structure a backup quarterback situation is to get a guy, doesn't need to be a huge talent, but somebody who can mimic the playing style at a poorer level of your starting quarterback. But I see it from Lamar's perspective. He does not want to further injure himself in a contract year. I see from the Ravens' perspective that maybe they feel like, okay, I don't necessarily want a guy who isn't all in and willing to kind of have that competitive drive to push himself back into a playoff situation. What I do know is that the vibes between these two parties are not good. I was jokingly saying they'll tag and trade him to the Miami Dolphins, but do you think Lamar Jackson's a Raven next year? I don't think so. Given his contract demands, which I think I saw Dave Zirin, who I respect a lot, was tweeting about how players not having agents is like a player empowerment thing. I don't know if that's true. Like, the way that this is shaking out, Lamar might never get his payday, and I was begging him to take that contract like earlier in the year when it was offered to him. That would have been something that would have set him up for generations, and he would have gotten his payday. But I don't see it I don't see this working out with him and the Ravens because after this year, they're certainly not going to give him what he's asking for. And that makes me very sad. I've said this before. The Ravens are my favorite AFC team. I love the way that organization runs. I love the fact that they let their players play and be themselves. I love the fact that they took a chance on Lamar when these racist idiots like Bill Polian were in the media saying that he was a running back or a wide receiver or whatever bullshit. He and Josh Allen were clearly the two best quarterbacks in that draft. I was early on that because I was at that time following Chris Sims pretty closely, and he was high on those guys. And I was like, this is better than Sam Darnold. Darnold? Those two guys have elite traits. Darnold? What's he got? So whatever. But at the same time, it's a sad situation. I don't think it's going to get repaired. I really don't.
So the concern I have is that, per what you're saying, like, I appreciate a guy like Lamar wanting to bet on himself and like represent himself and like hold out for the money that he believes that he deserves. But I don't think it's necessarily like a capitulation to have an agent that is not only completely literate and professionally has the professional expertise to fight for every last dollar for you in a contract,
where you don't have to worry about it in season. You can just do your job.
Where you're only basically sweating your play and sweating how you can maximize your play during the season, as opposed to thinking I have to be doing all of this rides on me also by week by week, week by week, essentially trying to evaluate your stock in these negotiations, whereas an agent will be doing that for you. Like, I totally I understand the part of like the player empowerment tack of that to an extent, but at the same time, I don't want him, like you said, to be screwed because he's overvaluing that aspect of representing himself at the expense of actually just getting the money he deserves.
It has been a bad track record for players who have represented themselves so far.
Russell Okung, I think, did. He won, that might have been
Richard Sherman did with the 49ers, and that contract was dog shit and widely maligned by a lot of people because at that point Sherman was on the decline but still had a lot of clout. They're about to deal with this with Roquan Smith, who does not have an agent. Right. And
he got signed though, I think, right? Didn't Smith get the extension?
You might be right. You might be right.
And he to his credit
10 hours ago.
Yeah, he to his credit got a big one, which is good. I mean, great. Happy for the guy. Love him. Want him to get all the money. But at the same time, speaking of directly to the situation, the Ravens just signed Roquan Smith to be the highest paid linebacker, I think, in league history. That's money that's also not going to a Lamar Jackson extension.
There's no chance. I just feel like I see a tag and trade coming, and then the team that trades for him will extend.
So my question is, if that's the case, because I totally see where you're coming from, this Roquan Smith extension getting done doesn't make me feel super confident. Lamar not playing in this playoff game, and I'm not saying he's not hurt, but I'm just saying the fact that it's basically a foregone conclusion. There's no clamoring. There's no nothing. None of that's coming out. I see where you're coming from. I guess now that I'm curious as to who might be first in on those sweepstakes.
Miami, Atlanta.
You think Miami, though, even regardless of Tua's play this season?
Who has more of an injury risk? Tua? No. Guys, I'm sorry. Even with first of all, Tua.
I guess I'm wondering.
Can't stay healthy.
Right, that's
true. He's too small and can't absorb these hits, and that's why he keeps getting concussed. He also doesn't seem to have a good sense of how to protect himself. His play is easily duplicated by guys. He does have a quick release that is a strength of Tua's. Lamar has a very quick release. Lamar also can throw downfield.
And he can also do more with his feet.
Too.
Of course he'd be an upgrade. I guess what I'm curious about is, did Tua buy himself enough goodwill with his play before he got significantly injured to the point where the Dolphins management would be like, we are not going to.
Well, that would be idiotic.
No, I mean, it's more like NFL. It's NFL brain stuff too. Yes. More I'm thinking you don't want to break trust with Tua, that type of thing. But certainly a more mercenary team would 1,000% 1,000%.
I'd do it in a
Just ditch
second.
Tua for Lamar.
Yeah, do it in 1 second. I would do it in 1 second. And that offense by Mike McDaniel, where you can have a guy that can stretch the field with his arm, and even if
Be
Lamar
unbelievable.
isn't what he was running the ball at this point in his career, he's still pretty good. So running the ball a little bit. Lamar has a quick release, flick of the wrist, strong arm, and he's strong in the pocket when he is playing. So
and will have infinitely more receiving talent than he's ever had on the Ravens, on the Dolphins.
And come on. Top 3 receiving duo in the NFL. And he's from Florida.
And he's from Florida, right? He's from the area too.
And if he's really interested in getting his money, no income tax.
And of course, absolutely. My curiosity with a few other teams as well, besides Miami, which now I think it definitely seems like a viable alternative, is now that it seems as if the Derek Carr experience in Las Vegas is totally done, that he's issued a goodbye. There's rumors that if they can't trade him by February, they will just cut him. I don't know what the financials might look like there, but I'm wondering if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
The prospect of playing with Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, a good receiving core there. Josh Jacobs having a career year. I don't think the Colts, even though they need a quarterback, would be a
they need to draft
option.
a guy. They're
Right.
sick of this carousel that they're on with these veteran
1 year
quarterbacks.
established quarterbacks.
I mean, they could get Lamar, but I don't see that happening in Vegas either, because I think Josh McDaniels wants white guy pocket passer.
Right.
I think Baker Mayfield's going there. That's since I know the Patriots liked him in the draft with McDaniels at the
and kind of performed pretty decently for the Rams down the stretch after getting signed there. Maybe kind of given him a little more cachet than he had when he was getting rocked on the Panthers.
Yeah, that was a great move by him. Bad move going to the Panthers and not sticking out in Cleveland, but because he could have played that Jacoby Brissett role, but he didn't want to deal with the Browns anymore. Fine, fair enough. Fair enough. But okay, so I'm saying, top is Miami. I really feel strongly that there's some flirtation there.
Yeah,
they
I can see that for sure.
He's a big name, and that would get Stephen Ross, who wanted Tom Brady, perk his ears up.
Totally.
A lot of 8 jerseys in teal being sold.
The money sign's just flashing you in front of his eyes.
Atlanta, I could see that.
Yep. That's
also,
an interesting idea.
Hey, they got Mike Vick in their history, and they've got Lamar Jackson, the 2 greatest running quarterbacks of all time.
And
good fit for the system.
And Arthur Smith was presided over one of underratedly one of the best rushing teams in the whole league this year, despite not having necessarily elite talent. I mean, Cordell Patterson's great, but I'm saying not.
No, they got that running back in the 5th
Algier,
round.
Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier.
He had a great. He actually did have
good fantasy pick next
especially
year.
Second half of the season had a really nice season. But I think imagine what Arthur Smith, what that mind could do with Lamar.
And then here's my third out. Well, okay, I'm giving 4. Tampa Bay Buccaneers once Brady leaves. And
wow.
My 4th is the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, again, honestly, another thing I could
run team, run first team.
Exactly,
but they're definitely, I feel like, distant 4th, because
I'm just wondering what they want to spend.
Vrabel also,
defensive-minded head coach.
They always think that they can make as long as the quarterback makes smart decisions, they don't need a huge upside at that position,
right.
And so
it's not usually, I would say, what they've prioritized in terms of their setup. But, the offense was kind of anemic going down the stretch, especially once Tannehill went down. So.
Oh, yeah. And they have no faith in Malik Willis.
Right. Clearly. They freaking started Josh Dobbs over him, and Malik was healthy.
I know.
That gives me pause about what they're thinking about the quarterback position, especially.
I mean, Malik Willis has looked bad.
Yeah.
He has athletic ability, but he's not anywhere near close to playing as a starter.
No.
And part of the problem with those situations is that there's so many pro-ready guys coming into the league that the development process, it seems like, they quick yank,
But, as we've seen, teams get impatient. They don't want to stick around.
Who could you be talking about?
Another possible. I would be talking about another possible Lamar Jackson destination.
God.
I don't think so.
I
think
pray
it's,
that he doesn't go
I think
there.
it's an older guy. I think it would be Carr or Rodgers or something.
Again, defensive head coach. I just don't see
Right.
them wanting Lamar. I think Carr is like.
I'm putting it out into the universe. I'm trying not to be greedy. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I want Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. I would be thrilled if the Jets just got like Jacoby Brissett. I'd be over the moon.
So, how are you feeling as a Jets fan?
Bad, awful.
Yeah.
I'd like everyone to be fired.
Do you think that
Mike LaFleur
Good
being
that he
fired
was
was a good move. Like that had to happen.
I mean,
because there's not a,
Zach Wilson was the scapegoat for that idiot's failure.
There's not a huge excuse.
Sorry.
There's not a huge excuse even for the scheme to look that bad. Even I mean, Zach Wilson did not play. Of course, did not play well,
Yes.
but even before he was benched. But it's not also super justifiable that the rushing offense after Breece Hall went down became the worst rushing offense in the league.
Yeah.
It's not.
He was the leading rusher at the end of the year. When did he tear his ACL?
Week 6, week 7. That's not super justifiable to me. And also a lot of play designs having these running end arounds for Braxton Berrios in the red zone like 3 times every game. Like it's not justifiable. Like a lot of it is on Zach Wilson for his quarterback play when he was playing, to be sure, but it's also teams with far less talent got way more out of the people on their team than Mike LaFleur did with his players.
And they have more. I mean, they have more talent than a lot of teams at the receiver position. They have Garrett Wilson,
had a great
Elijah
season.
Moore, like
1,000-yard season for Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. I still think with the right
Ozana
guy
had a decent year, right?
Yeah,
Is that true?
Yeah, it was. Tyler Conklin.
Tyler Conklin.
I still think this team has the spine and the bones of a good offense. They just need to figure out that position. And I think even figuring it out is I think they're one like pretty competent offensive coordinator and just a functional quarterback away from that.
I agree. I think
I don't even think Mike White was that. To me, I as we've discussed, I'm a Mike White skeptic in the sense that I love him as I love the folk hero stuff. I love making the joke, of course. I love that he's had flashes. He had 1 or 2 fantastic games, no question. At the same time, there's a reason why he's bounced around. There's a reason why he's 5th, 6th round pick. There's a reason why he's not a starting quarterback, because he's not a starting quarterback.
Yeah, and the starting quarterbacks for the most part, we're just talking about the development of Malik Willis falling apart. Zach Wilson more pro ready than Malik Willis, and
oh yeah,
I think it's inexcusable that they didn't craft an offense that maximized his abilities.
And I think that's part of I honestly think like the development of him also is beyond being obviously contained within his struggles to get up to speed with a pro offense. It also rests on the guy making that offense.
Yeah, I'm just like everybody that was like Mike White, he's the future, he's the man, like he's taking us to the playoffs. Where are you now? Because he did not play well in the rest of the year.
They lost 7 in a row.
And part of I
mean, he got injured, of course, but then also again, I think it's also a team building thing. The fact that you're the option after that. It's Zach Wilson. It's a young, struggling quarterback, struggling to get up the game speed of the NFL. It's a pretty unheralded backup that's getting more shine because of how bad option 1 has been.
Yeah.
And then Joe Flacco. There's no sustainability there. There's zero sustainability.
This is why the organization pisses me off, is because they didn't end up making the playoffs anyway. They could have used this period of time to give Zach Wilson a longer leash, build up his confidence, since he had gone 5-2 before that damn benching. Keep at it. Work with him. Yeah, because
the gamble didn't
figure it out.
The gamble didn't even pay off.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone could have seen that coming, because Mike White was going to have some sort of I saw there are a lot of quarterbacks when they make their early starts, the defense isn't prepared for them. So they don't have a lot of film, and they have some success.
And it was the now number 1 overall pick possessing Bears.
It was the Bears, and then it was the Vikings as well, who have the 31st ranked defense in the NFL.
Right.
So I think Zach Wilson has been very bad, But I hate the process. I think he could have turned it around, and we'll never know now because they've killed the dude's confidence and they handled it with such incompetence that I will never get over it.
And the hating the process, I think, is in the process being bad speaks to why Mike LaFleur no longer has a job.
Yeah.
Like, that's
right.
Bottom line.
Right.
I mean,
I saw Woody Johnson was speaking to the media today and was like,
he basically just saying, quarterback is the missing piece, which, like,
I know, but like, but again, it's just
no shit, Woody.
I'm sorry, but John Mara would never say that to the New York media about Daniel Jones after his first 2 years, which were filled with struggles.
Yeah,
and now he's leading the team to the playoffs.
Not
that he's a superstar, but they instilled their young quarterback with confidence, and the team got built around him, and there we go.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, like Zach Wilson's a bit of a punk, and Daniel Jones is just a robot that likes football. But it just
can't say the kid doesn't have confidence. He was at Wilson was asked. Hey, what will you do if there's a vet next to you in training camp? He says, I'll give that guy a hell of a fight. You won't, but it's I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
This is how you get with your mom's friends, folks. That's how that happens.
you just show confidence.
You just show you fake it till you make it.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Anyway, speaking of teams that didn't make the playoffs, let's do this. Let's play a little game, shall we?
Let's play a game.
I want to do vibe check for just a few teams that didn't make the playoffs. Some teams have good vibes. Some teams have bad vibes. Let's start with the good vibes. The Detroit Lions now have the 6th and 18th picks in the NFL draft, and they did not make the playoffs. However, when's the last time you have felt this good about the Detroit Lions, Bradley? Megatron years?
But the thing is, I was
going to say, I was like, oh, Matthew Stafford is like amazing. He gets no credit in the media because they don't win playoff games, but really the entire team is Megatron and Matthew Stafford, and that's it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then and at one point, Ndamukong Suh was dominant for them, but even then, it was trash.
Those teams were defined by having you could actually trace this back even further. I mean, going back to even Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
The Lions have been characterized by having good honestly, between Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, two once in a generation players surrounded by a bad team that can't win.
Yeah.
And this I think has been probably this might be the most optimistic outlook for a Lions team in potentially their entire franchise.
And I just felt so good about them going into Green Bay, kicking the shit out of the Packers, winning that game, dirty,
and being galvanized,
cold game up in Lambeau. Yeah,
being galvanized to do it with literally nothing to play for.
Yeah,
knowing that the game before they were eliminated from the playoffs, and still wanting to stick it to the Packers. And you said, frickin' Dan Campbell looked like Rudolph. His nose was so red. It was freezing. I mean, they to seal the game, they pulled this a hook and ladder.
Yeah.
To DeAndre, that ultimately went to DeAndre Swift to clinch the first down, and they won. I was like, these guys are not just playing to make the playoffs. They're not just playing for a winning record. They're just playing because they want to win.
They're playing for each other, and they're playing for their coach.
And they're playing because I think they're excited about what the future holds for them. As they should be.
They have gotten to believe again. Or maybe for the first time ever. And that is an intoxicating thing. They were playing like a top 12 team in the end. They were playing like a playoff team. And if they hadn't gone 1-6, they should. I mean, I'm like sick that the Seahawks are in and not them. It should have been the Lions. That would have been the Lions 49ers actually would be a fun game.
Oh my God, it would have been a very in terms of offensive scheming, it would have been fascinating to watch.
It would have been bonkers.
But what I'll say is that I just think there's so much. I'll get to my one wrinkle of hesitancy but I'll go to the positives first. You have Jamal Williams as being one of the most reliable goal line backs in the entire league. He also just seems to be a true mensch of a guy. He just seems to be a hilarious, fun,
I'm obsessed with him. I hope he
awesome
has
guy.
like an amazing media career after his playing.
Oh,
career
I think he will.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift, another reliable, great back who offers something different than that of Williams. You have I would say, arguably, on the cusp of being a second-team All-Pro receiver, and Amon-Ra St. Brown this year.
Oh yeah.
DJ Chark, Jameson Williams as a rookie you will now then in the coming season have a fully healthy season from him. And then also
he was the best receiver in the draft. He just wasn't able to play,
and
he was still getting his feet under. Like, look out for him next year. Look out for him next year.
Truly, I completely agree. And then the other thing is, most importantly, even if Jared Goff is not ultimately the answer at quarterback, you have a fantastic center in Frank Ragnow. And a guy who I absolutely believe will be one of the best offensive linemen of this generation of players in Penei Sewell. That pick, at first, obviously there was much debate between whether it should have been Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell in that draft. I don't think anybody went wrong, and I think at first there was some concern about that.
I was concerned. I thought that they should have. I thought the Bengals should have gone with Penei, because I was like, look at what happened to Joe Burrow. But that was a win-win situation. It was for both teams.
A shockingly win-win situation when in a kind of sliding doors, draft moment. But Sewell is essentially has the athleticism of like a basketball player in a 335-pound body.
Yeah,
and he's also he's 22 years old.
Yes.
Maybe he's a child, and he's already playing at this level. So I just think on the offensive side of the ball, there is so much to be encouraged about, and I think if they're able to find a higher ceiling asset at quarterback, that'll only make things even better. But the only concern I have is the brain drain, because I just do think inevitably Ben Johnson will be poached to be a head coach somewhere else. I'm confident in Aaron Glenn as a defensive coordinator. I think he makes those guys play hard. They have one of the lowest defensive spend rates in the entire league. That will change. I think they will be able to get better and improve on defense. My main concern is, once Ben Johnson leaves, does that offensive ingenuity leave with him, or can they continue and build upon that without him?
Yeah. So those are my two concerns here. They have great vibes, like pretty much nothing to complain about going into the offseason. They will face some challenges next year. I do think that their OC is going to get poached by some team that wants like their next whiz kid.
Yeah, because in my view, if I had to make a prediction, whoever, if we're operating under the supposition that Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh will be NFL head coaches next year, and obviously we don't know that. I'm just saying, if we're assuming that, I think whoever's the runner-up in those sweepstakes, whether it's the Cardinals, whether it's the Panthers, someone like whether if Josh McDaniels is ultimately not the coach, if something like that, I think whoever doesn't get those guys,
they can't fire him; they're too cheap. So
yeah, we probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
We'll take Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson is the next guy after those two.
I think he's definitely getting hired. I'm praying that Mike Kafka does not get hired, because he just interviewed with two teams. But
the only other person I would say is Shane Steichen from the Eagles. That's probably the only
D'Amico
other OC.
Ryan's also.
D'Amico Ryan's. I mean, if
but
you're
OC,
looking for,
yeah,
in terms of OCs.
But my point here is that I'm a little worried that the Lions are gonna, and it's hard to let go of Jared Goff. I know that, because the teams rallied around him and you've won with him.
Right.
Don't do it, guys. You have 2 picks in this draft. Try to get the first overall pick from the Chicago Bears. I know, in-division rival, that's hard to do, but I think you should try to reset at quarterback.
Right.
People don't... I know that there's a lot of momentum to not do that, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that could succeed with that OC, with those weapons, behind that offensive line. And my concern is that this is the opportunity to set you guys up to be like a perennial playoff contender if you fall in love with one of the quarterbacks in the draft. So I really hope that this whole we're sticking with Jared Goff thing is a smoke screen, because we know what the limitations of Jared Goff are. Even though he's having a very good year, it's just that I don't think that's smart team building, and I'm hopeful that Brad Holmes sees that, because everything else he's done, the moves that he's made, even trading T.J. Hawkinson, who they have these other tight ends on their roster that they're playing great.
It's not as if Brock Wright was necessarily a huge downgrade. Even he still was playing pretty good football.
They know that they don't want to pay him, and they got a second round pick out of it.
Exactly.
That's great. So everything that they've done has been great. I want them to pump the brakes a little on Jared Goff for the long term future of the team.
I certainly, if we want to get to our next team, because this kind of factors in as well, is that I genuinely, speaking of the first pick, I genuinely think the Bears are a good vibes team.
Agreed.
I actually, despite their bad record and getting the first overall pick because their record was bad, I genuinely think no matter what they do, they are in a great position. They had the perfect tank sweet spot of getting phenomenal play out of their quarterback, Justin Fields, while also not winning games so they could get the first overall pick.
And then their former head coach helping them out a little bit.
Their former head coach.
We'll get to the Texans in the bad vibes segment.
Lovie Smith doing a little House of Cards wink at the camera after winning the game to get the second overall pick for a team that fired him moments after
during Sunday Night Football, so no one would talk about it.
With that being said, the pick makes it so that there are multiple options for there to be good tidings for the Bears. I think one of them is better, which is that I think the Bears should really, really get into conversations, like you said, with a team like the Lions, with a team like the Panthers, a team that is very clearly quarterback hungry and would be willing to do a lot in terms of give over assets. The Colts to give over assets to get a young quarterback and take that number 1 overall pick, because the Bears don't need a quarterback.
Yeah.
What they just need is players.
Yeah.
They just need people. They just need upgrades. They need to get players on their defense from like a D+ to a C+, or a C+ to a B+. They just need to be with when you have Fields, you already have 2 pretty good safety prospects already on the team in Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. I feel good about those guys, but you just want guys that'll improve the offensive line, improve the defensive line, improve your linebacker core, like just guys
more Jimmies and Joes.
Exactly.
And they need to improve the offensive line. I think they can do that in free agency. There's some really interesting names coming up, like Orlando Brown was not able to reach a long-term deal with the Chiefs. They franchise tagged him, so he's going to be a free agent. Like I don't think that the 49ers can pay Mike McGlinchey. He's not anything special, but he's something that he's a piece.
He would absolutely be an upgrade over, let's say, Sam Mustipher.
They can overpay because they have $100 million
and that's
in
the
salary
other big
cap
thing
space.
is I think the ideal circumstance, and listen, what's the least ideal circumstance? The Bears get a once-in-a-generation phenomenal nose tackle in Jalen Carter, or a once-in-a-generation ferocious linebacker in Will Anderson. Oh, boo-hoo, terrible. Have a guy who will literally be the linchpin of your defense for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the worst-case scenario.
Right.
The best-case scenario is you get a boatload of picks for your number 1 pick, and you have $100 million to spend in the offseason to retool your team.
And Ryan Poles was... I literally almost say Ryan Pace every time because their names are so similar.
The Bears,
and they have the same damn position.
The Bears. I think the Bears team-wide policy is you can only hire GMs named Ryan, and you can only hire head coaches named Matt.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the only thing that they have institutionally that they stick to.
It's like Sam with his hiring practices.
Right.
It's just Bradley, Brandon's Matts.
Just Matts, right? Yeah. I mean, I was legally required to get hired here because they were like, enough. You need an Emma.
You can't just have these guys.
But like Ryan Poles was saying, we're gonna do our due diligence. Like, he was downplaying it essentially. They're not taking a quarterback. I mean, if they did, that would be insane in my opinion. Like,
I just think there's no need. We know what he is now.
Justin Fields has the potential to be the greatest running quarterback in the history of the NFL.
He was already meeting or breaking records in terms of his rushing acumen.
And
without an offensive line.
He might not be the greatest drop back passer at this point, but his arm is nice. Like, he's got the ability to make good throws, and you don't need much when you have that threat of a home run hitter. The Bears were covering all the time at the end of the year. And I was always scared to take those big spreads to have them cover, but it didn't matter because you get a touchdown out of nowhere from him.
He was doing it because he was doing it. Like the team was basically doing it because of him.
Yeah.
Like the gravity that he creates because of his running ability, when he has a better line, will only open up more passing opportunities for him.
Exactly.
Teams will get safe in their schemes against him because they're so scared of what they can do if he breaks contain and runs, that more passing lanes are going to be open for him.
100%.
And that'll only be better if, like you said, if he's literally able to get from like bargain basement lineman to plus lineman.
Yep.
If they have a Bengals like upgrade on their line, if they can get guys,
serviceable guys,
if they can get the equivalent of like Ted Karras and Alex Kappa on their line, or a guy who's slightly better in the version of Lael Collins, like that type of thing, like that would literally optimize Fields in a way that he's never been able to so far in his professional career.
Yes.
So good vibes. Bears have the good vibes.
Even if they have the first overall pick. My final good vibes team, I don't know if we discussed this before. So, I mean, like, maybe I'm kind of cheating because these are two teams like well, we're not, because the Bears are the worst team in the NFL by record and we have them as good vibes. But I gotta say, the Steelers really, really just did it again. They did it again at the end of the year. Steelers fans, you guys that want Mike Tomlin fired, grass always seems greener on the other side. Never a losing season for Mike Tomlin, the epitome of a leader of men, the epitome of a coach that knows how to play his opponents and get them into tough situations and exploit weaknesses. Mike Tomlin, stud. Najee Harris, strong, fearsome back who really came on and seemed to actually get healthy towards the end of the year. He's never going to blow you away with his speed, but he adds like the exact character that the Steelers team needs at their running back position on that front. And then you have Jaylen Warren, who's a nice change of pace. He can catch some passes. He's got some more speed, that kind of deal. George Pickens, superstar. Kenny Pickett, I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar, but he's tough and he's smart and he makes all the throws. And he kept progressing as the year went on.
Yeah, he did. He did get better and better. He definitely did. I was a little concerned at the beginning of the Jets game, but
it's never going to be sexy with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but this is the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know? And not every team needs to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills or the Miami Dolphins, this exciting fantasy team. It's also cool to be different in the NFL because that means that you might pose a matchup problem for teams that are used to preparing for an offense like the Minnesota Vikings or something like that, you know?
Their identity is being an ass kicker.
Yes.
That's the Steelers' identity.
And they're always going to be that way. Like, that's why the Steelers, for me, you know, they're one of the great franchises 100%. In sports. And it's because throughout history, this has been their identity. Even when Big Ben was having good offensive years and putting up like 35 points and stuff, like in that Super Bowl, they put up a bunch of points, I believe. But it's crazy that the Steelers are this consistent under Mike Tomlin. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, I think they can go into the offseason with their head held high and feel really good about what they put together at the end of the year.
What I would like to see from them, obviously, is to maybe, again, if they can, if they have, in terms of their, their spending situation, get a little younger on defense. Cam Hayward had yet another amazing year, but that guy's like 33 now. Alex Highsmith, another great player. I mean, of course, it's always nice to get a little bit of a dividend from a big trade. Micah Fitzpatrick has only proven more and more that he is a perennially all-pro safety.
Yeah.
He's a very smart player. So I'm encouraged on that side. If they can still maybe get a little bit younger, retool a little bit on defense, upgrade the O-line a little bit to help Kenny Pickett out a little bit more. And the only other big thing for me is I just hope they fire Matt Canada.
Yeah, that too.
I just would love for Tomlin to get out of his own way a tiny bit and just hire a slightly more creative offensive coordinator than he has in the past.
Oh my God, Matt Canada. Everything is like 3-yard pass, run up the middle, 3-yard pass, jump ball down the sidelines only if it's one-on-one. It's like, can you scheme anybody open in the middle of the field?
Is there anything else to be done? Is
that
there anything
isn't
possible?
a 3-yard pass? Right.
And Pickett's a slinger. Pickett likes to take risks. Like Pickens is a ball winner. Pickens is a ball winner with an insane catch radius.
Yes.
Like what are we doing here? Like use what you have.
I know, but I mean,
and spam it. Press the go button.
Part of it is clearly they don't trust the O-line to develop plays for them to get down the field. So they're
I think that's definitely part of the problem.
You do a go route and it's like boom,
right.
that's
4
it.
seconds, get it out of there.
Right, but I'm sorry, like the Giants didn't have, like, their offensive line was playing really badly towards the start of the year. Roll them out. Like they were doing that a little bit with Mitch Trubisky, but I don't know. Matt Canada, Joe Lombardi, 2 offensive coordinators I would like to see out of jobs.
Off to greener pastures.
Yes. Sorry, guys.
And maybe Greg Roman.
Yeah, go to college and, have a great time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe Greg Roman, too.
Yeah,
but at the same
nice.
There's a personnel issue on with those Ravens receivers as well.
Absolutely.
All right, now we're going to bad vibes.
It's the bad vibes. A lot of bad. Honestly, there were a lot of bad vibes teams, but we were able to distill it to 3. But there are definitely some bad vibes going into the offseason.
This is me preparing to tee up on Jeff Saturday. Indianapolis Colts, worst vibes in the NFL right now, and I'm about to talk about the Houston Texans. So buckle up. You must be pretty bad, Indianapolis Colts. Jeff Saturday is a clown. A clown. Did you guys know that he was offered the job to be the offensive line coach multiple times by Jim Irsay, who has some sort of love affair with him and wants him to see him on the coaching staff? Did you know that Jeff Saturday turned it down multiple times because he thought he was too good for it and wanted essentially only to be the head coach? Irsay, due to this love affair, chose to fire Frank Reich in the middle of the season, put Jeff Saturday in with 0 head coaching experience, 0 coaching experience outside of a high school team. Jeff Saturday was all gloating after they had that 1 win. Guess what? 1-7 in his tenure. And not just 1-7 in traditional fashion, like, oh, they played tough, even though the Colts had a roster to be very competitive up and down the roster this year. There were horrible losses, including one that broke records versus the Minnesota Vikings.
Can I read the tweet?
Mm-hmm.
November 14th, 2022, 4:08 p.m. Jim Irsay, all you critics, ... you criticize all of us in the NFL for losing, ... when we make moves to win, capital W, ... you act so righteous, exclamation point, in quotes, all proper nouns for some reason, proper words.
Huh.
Who you crappin', ...
It's not a thing.
Close quote. Just win, baby! Exclamation point, football emoji, peace out emoji. Since that tweet, they never won another game in the regular season.
Stick to roof open or closed tweets, Jim Irsay.
No one listened to that. No one listened to the just win command there, Jim. Sorry to tell you, but
it is just well, I mean, I hope Frank Reich gets another head coaching job next year. I feel like he might sit one out and just regroup.
I can understand it.
That was a ridiculous, I don't know. He got done dirty by Jim Irsay, who clearly had one guy in mind, some sort of prior relationship with him that convinced this oligarch that he had to make this unilateral decision, which I know, based on reporting, was met with resentment by the rest of the tenured coaching staff on that team.
Like Gus Bradley and John Fox, who have literally already coached NFL teams before.
You want to give Frank Reich
there already.
That's fine, I guess. I don't agree with it because I think he's been dealt a terrible situation with the quarterback position, but fine, you're giving him the hook. Okay. Promote one of the former head coaches on your roster. Create some stability within that team. Don't bring some guy who thought he was too good to be a part of the coaching staff in there to lead the rest of that coaching staff. I can't imagine that kind of resentment that he comes off his TV set and, blows through there, and having never worked in his life. Like, coaching is a very difficult job. People will say, coaches or the CEO of a football team, what they do is harder than what CEOs do.
Yeah,
Let's be real, because they actually have to do really hard work.
They probably work a little bit more than some CEOs.
And have people skills, and you know,
we call CEOs NFL owners.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So they are not the CEO. They are like the overworked management. And head coach is a really difficult job. And I don't think Jeff Saturday tried very hard, had the work ethic, and I believe he had a disproportionate ego. And like, I can't imagine what that locker room is like. And the point of all of this is that Irsay's still considering hiring him long term,
keeping him after 1-7, keeping him after 1-7, keeping him after when they needed to take, when they had 3 timeouts or 2 timeouts or something in a low clock situation at the end of the game. He literally just let them just keep going and going until they had no time to run a last play. I don't remember exactly which game it was where that happened.
Well, I mean, did they do the Manning cast? Oh, it probably wasn't on ESPN, because remember when Peyton was freaking out about that Broncos game?
Yeah.
But Jeff Saturday's a part of ESPN.
That was it. It was the Broncos game where they were saying, when Peyton was like, call timeout.
I wonder how we'd feel about this BFF doing the exact same shit, except when, you know, being a member of the Colts coaching staff at that point.
And Saturday, I think, was like, yeah, you know, I didn't think time was of the essence or something like that. It was like, oh, you didn't? You didn't think that? Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. Oh, got it. Okay, no problem. The frustrating thing too is like Saturday. The frustrating too is like is this is all like management and non-field stuff. Besides, obviously, the very glaring bad quarterback play and very disappointing offensive line play. Mm-hmm. The defense is not bad.
Yeah.
The Colts defense, Grover Stewart had a very nice year. Shaq Leonard's a good player. They have a few good players at safety.
Buckner's still
DeForest Buckner's
monster.
There. Like it's just that's what's also such a bummer, is just like there are pieces on this. Michael Pittman is a good player. Like there are pieces on this team that they can get something out of. They just Irsay is the owner. Ballard kind of standing by while this stuff happens. Chris Ballard, their GM, standing by, and Saturday at the head coaching spot is just like they're stepping on rakes. They're just getting in their own way.
And it looks like, I mean, Jeff Saturday, worm tongue, whispering in Irsay's ear, was saying, like, you know, like kind of implying that I didn't have a lot to work with, which is like shade on Chris Ballard. If they fire Chris Ballard and keep Jeff Saturday, I think Colts fans should riot.
I completely agree, because that's how much more succinctly in terms of your actions can Jim Irsay communicate to his fan base that he does not care about winning? Yeah.
It's that's that. So worst vibes there, but closely followed, in my opinion, by the Houston Texans.
Oh yeah.
The Houston Texans have fired Lovie Smith. A year after they fired David Culley, they scrambled to hire Lovie Smith, who has not been a head coach since 2015.
He was coaching the University of Illinois before he was hired by the Texans.
They scrambled to hire him after the Brian Flores lawsuit included the Houston Texans. Brian Flores was accusing the NFL with a lot of credibility, evidence, just obvious validity of racial discrimination in hiring practices. So the Houston Texans said, oh, damn, we were trying to hire Josh McCown because he likes to pray with the owner, even though he has no head coaching experience whatsoever, and that might look really bad. And we just fired a black head coach who was clearly set up to fail in a tanking season after a one undone. Oh, okay, let's find a black guy and hire him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's what happened.
The optics wouldn't work for our white church buddy just yet.
Yeah. So we'll delay it a year. And then we'll fire him after 1 year. The last time that there have been 2 back-to-back one-on-one, one-and-done head coaches. Since the merger in 1970, the San Francisco 49ers...
It was Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula, right?
That happened, yes, 2015, 2016. They were the only team that had done that before in 79 and 78. So those are 2 instances of back-to-back years, and the Niners had both done that. That one made sense.
Yeah, Tom Sula was not didn't
cut out
have
for
the
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Nice guy, but anyway, long story short, it's a very rare situation.
Oh yeah.
But now the Texans have added their name to that list with and I underscore that rarity just to say that that he was clearly the fall guy, Lovie Smith. He was clearly, I think he kind of knew what he was getting into to a degree when he got hired. You don't see the terms. This is not to blame him at all. He should take whatever job he wants. Like, it is completely on the Texans. But I'd imagine they hired him knowing they could get him cheaper. Coach salaries are not publicly disclosed. So perhaps the contract was structured in a way where Lovie Smith knew, like, maybe I'm just like a stopgap, whatever. It doesn't mean that the process is in any way less racist. Like, they used him. They used him, and they used David Culley in a way that I think just provides another piece of evidence to Brian Flores' lawsuit. And the lawsuit, this is what people miss. It's not just about who you hire. It's when you hire black coaches, what do you hire them for? In Brian Flores' instance, they hired him because, according to the allegations, Stephen Ross was trying to tank and was offering to pay him money so that he could look really bad and never get hired ever again, Brian Flores, because they would go, oh, he went 0-16 as the head coach of the Dolphins. Why would we ever give him another opportunity? He was hiring the black guy to tank, and then he would fire him and move on to the next guy. And this is exactly what happened here with the Houston Texans. It also happened to Steve Wilkes with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, they fired him after a year.
And Wilkes may not get another opportunity, despite turning that terrible Carolina Panthers team around, doing a way better job and almost winning the division.
Than Matt Rule ever did with the 2 years he had. You know?
And so this is a systemic problem, and the Houston Texans, a racist organization where the owner says, I don't want the inmates running the asylum, in reference to protests about racial discrimination when it comes to Colin Kaepernick. That guy just hired 2 black head coaches in back-to-back tanking seasons and fired them both, and they announced this in the middle of Sunday Night Football, so nobody would really report on it, and it would go a little bit under the radar. It was a big game for the Lions, or really for the Packers. And
it was actually his son, though, because he died.
Right. Oh, so
yeah, Cal McNair, Bob McNair, who made the inmates. No, but that's what I was going to say is, like, it's needless to say, it stayed in the family.
That's that organization is really what I meant to say.
Absolutely.
But the point being is that this stinks of systemic racism and just general grossness. And I don't know. I know that D'Amico Ryans, I think, has said publicly, I don't want to go there. Like,
I wonder why.
Who the hell wants to go to your organization? Not that you'd hire a black guy. I know that you're like now you're going to hire your church buddy, and you could do a prayer circle or whatever. But like, I don't know who, like, I don't think Josh McCown will do a good job without ever being a head coach. We're seeing Jeff Saturday screw up the entire situation in Indianapolis.
Kind of helps to have a little experience.
You might need to have experience leading men and actually being a coach. So it's gross. I don't know how they attract any talent on the coaching side to come there unless you give them like a 6-year guaranteed contract or something like that. But I don't see the Texans doing that because I don't think it's an organization that's actually invested in winning.
And this is a similar thing that when it comes to the Colts as well, it's a huge bummer because toward the end of the season, Lovie Smith was coaching these guys up, and they were remaining competitive in games against the Chiefs, in games against the Titans. You know, they won this last game of the season and went for it on the 2-point conversion. Yes, did it give them the 2nd overall pick? I don't think any of those guys particularly cared.
No,
you know,
good for Lovie. Good. Screw that asshole out of that first overall pick.
I don't think Lovie Smith had any reason or any obligation to help Cal McNair and the ownership group for the Texans to suck enough because they don't want to put a winning football team out there, and they basically pity hired him because of all, like you said, the bad optics that came from the Brian Flores debacle that the NFL has. He coached up guys who are playing better than I would ever anticipate them to, and you know, a wide receiver Chris Moore, running back Jordan Akins. I mean, these guys are not heralded guys, and they were playing really hard. And
I mean, they have
Laramie Tunsil is one of the best offensive linemen in the league, and they don't deserve this. They
Yeah.
don't deserve to be jerked around like this because the Texans don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, there are. I mean, they've gutted their roster, but there are still men and players on that team and people in that organization who deserve to be respected and treated with dignity. Not just human beings and pieces that you can shuffle around and ruin their careers just so you can get a better draft position and end up like evading litigation for your fucking racism.
Right. Yeah, bad vibes all around for the Texans. Shame on you. Shame.
And I'm waiting for the next NFL player that the Texans want to draft. They want to draft a quarterback. They want to draft Bryce Young. They want to draft CJ Stroud. I hope that they get strong agents and those guys say, I'm not playing for this racist organization, because that's coming next. Eli Manning did it for his career, and he said, I don't want to be a part of the Chargers because there was like a public feud between head coach and the GM at the time, and the Chargers just like are not a very good organization.
They suffer from similar problems. They have suffered from similar problems in the past.
Eli flexed his muscle, but he had the ability to do that because his brother was in the league, his father was a quarterback. Right. They were wealthy already. They knew what they were doing, knew the business.
They didn't need to just jump at an opportunity.
Yes.
It wasn't
but
first money they'd ever
with this
seen.
NIL stuff, players are going to get more money, they're going to get more business savvy, and they're going to understand they can do this too. This will come. The chickens will come home to roost for this team. They deserve it for it to happen because this is a racist organization with an owner that deserves everything that's going to come to him when players eventually say, I don't want to play for that dog shit team.
Yep.
They probably should have been number one on the bad vibes.
Yeah, I think our tenor of the conversation made it so that they probably were number one on the bad vibes list at the end of the day.
Yeah. Lastly, the Arizona Cardinals have some pretty bad vibes right now.
Yeah, they're close, actually.
I mean,
less like organizational, like ownership ranker, I'd say. I mean, Michael Bidwill is like good friends with Brett Kavanaugh. Like that's just
really
throw a dime at an NFL owner. They're probably friends with one shitty Supreme Court justice or another.
Yeah.
But
or Trump himself.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but firing Cliff Kingsbury after it became abundantly clear week in, week out that Kyler Murray just fucking hated the guy and wanted to kill him all the time, combined with the team with essentially zero future because everyone on that team is either bad, old, or not under contract.
Yeah, all those veteran like stars they got are getting out of Dodge. They basically, I mean, JJ Watt retiring, even though he still can play. He's just like, I don't want this anymore.
He absolutely doesn't need to. He's proved himself enough and doesn't need to, keep putting his body through this to play for the Cardinals and the Texans.
Who might be, the worst team in the NFL without Kyler Murray while he's recovering from his ACL. He won't be the same guy. DeAndre Hopkins, screw him,
30.
honestly, for the PED stuff. Then also just seemed to have checked out from and is they're mutually agreeing to a trade.
AJ Green also 35.
Yeah. Why is I'm in awe that him and Julio Jones are still choosing to play football.
To play, meaningful snaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it is hard for me to understand what the trajectory of this franchise is still.
Yeah.
In the sense that is Kyler with their long-term option? They paid him like he is, but you probably shouldn't always need to say no COD after bedtime in his contract, and a guy who it's also been pretty clear that it's a little difficult to scheme for him offensively.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't really been able to find that exact sweet spot, the exact recipe to make him reach his ceiling. The offensive line is old. The defensive line is old. Buda Baker's a great player. Isaiah Simmons has not fully panned out yet. The secondary is not particularly great. Hollywood Brown was injured, and even when he wasn't injured, he's not particularly good. I just don't exactly know what direction this franchise is going, and now that they don't also have a coach, it's just hard for me to see either A, what's appealing about this job, and B, who will be able to steer them in the right direction. I'm
just shocked that they did get rid of Kingsbury this year. I knew that they would eventually because he's wildly inequipped to be an NFL head coach, and his offense is just ticky-tack and college-y.
with no desire to ever change it either. Like once he does something, it's like, oh, that's fun, but then he just does the same thing and literally never changes.
I just really thought they'd keep him around to scapegoat him for one more year while Kyler Murray is still recovering, and then move on from him next year, where their prospects might be better, unless they think that they actually have a chance at the Sean Payton sweepstakes. And I don't know why Payton would choose that team over other destinations, but it's not the worst. Better than the Texans. I think it's better than the Broncos job, given like what you have to work with Russell Wilson, although that team's more talented. An offensive guy, I feel like, and I know Sean Payton wants to be in warm weather apparently. So unless the Chargers choose to fire Brandon Staley, I feel like he actually could be interested in this job. So that could be the one saving grace for the Arizona Cardinals. But I don't know. I don't think Kyler Murray's the long-term answer either, and I think that contract's looking worse by the day.
Oh, yeah, and Martin in the YouTube chat reminds me, too. Zach Ertz, again, old. Not very good even when he's playing because he's old and injury-prone. I think you're right. I think that would probably be the only saving grace is if they were somehow able to win the Sean Payton sweepstakes, because I think if there's anybody who's going to be able to unlock Kyler Murray more than he's been able to be unlocked, it would be a guy like Sean Payton. But if not, I'm just thinking like I don't feel super excited if Vance Joseph gets promoted. And I have someone who I think he's a great DC. I think he's done a lot of great work with that defense despite the personnel. But I just don't. It doesn't excite me that he would potentially be the person leading them into the future with all this uncertainty. And I just like it. It seems like it's a lot of things kind of unfortunately culminating for them all at the same time, where due to a combination of age, bad draft choices, bad investments, they're going to have to figure out a lot at the same time very quickly. And I don't know if they are actually able to do it right now.
Right. Exactly. But you did say locks. You say unlock. It reminds me of something. Do we have it?
Oh, we do.
ESVN Stone Cold Lock of the Century or the Week.
Boom.
Super Wild Card Weekend Edition.
Oh my goodness. I mean, all right, let's just be real. This could be a better wild card weekend, but there's two starting quarterbacks that are out and two third-string quarterbacks that are playing for the Dolphins and for the Ravens. So that stinks.
I wonder if Skylar Thompson or Anthony Brown, like 18 weeks ago, was like, I'm already starting a playoff game.
Yeah, probably not. Hope they just like get a good night's sleep before. I would be so nervous.
Eat your Wheaties, boys. You got this. Okay?
You got this.
We're rooting for you.
Sort of. Well, we'll see if that jives with our picks against the spread. Let's check in on our little competition because we have some updates since we last, I guess, spoke with you, both myself and Bradley. We have had 2 weeks of NFL football and 2 results for our picks against the spread. I literally can't buy my way into getting out of 500 because over these past 2 weeks, I went 3-3. I went 1-2 in week 17. The Jaguars did not cover at -4. Wait, hold on. Week 17 they did not cover, right?
No, against the Lions.
No. Oh gosh, this is bad podcasting. The week 17. I might be wrong.
They beat the Texans. They killed them.
Damn it! I knew it.
Oh, you.
Hold on. This is bad podcasting. I'm sorry.
Are you saying you that they did cover? You just inadvertently put it that you missed that one because
I want to make we're gonna take a quick break.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I'm right about this because I want to make sure that our pick was accurate.
Okay.
That we both picked that week. Sorry guys.
Yeah,
be right
no
back.
problem, no
and
problem.
we'll restart our locks.
All right. 1 second. Okay. All right. Bye.
we are back. Sorry about that, guys. We did a little bit of a miscalculation, or aka I did, on the Jaguars game. It really changes nothing about like the difference between the two of us, but let's roll the lock segment again. ESVN
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. All week.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. All right, here we are. So these are our actual results. Sorry for the error last time around. I mean, hey, it makes me look better. I'm over 500. There we go. In total, Bradley and I both have the same amount of wins, but Bradley had 4 pushes, so he's ahead of me in the competition. But there's still a lot of grass ahead of us, as they say. Do they? I don't know. I went 4-2 over the past 2 weeks with the 3 locks that I had. Week 17, Bradley and I both had the Jaguars -4 versus the Texans, and they demolished the Texans, so there's that. I had the Eagles -5.5, and that was against the Saints. Pretty disappointing performance by them. And the 49ers -9.5, that was at the end. You know, they just pulled away. I had that as well. Bradley, had the Vikings +3. That was against the Packers, total demolishment, and we made the Bengals game a push because we had no idea how that was going to turn out. For week 18, I had the Jaguars -6.5, winning by a touchdown versus the Titans, and they ended up not covering that spread, though they still won the game. I think it was 4 points. I had the Steelers winning by a field goal. That's what happened. That's kind of how it ends up. And the Panthers +3.5. They ended up winning the game in New Orleans. So I went 2-1 in week 18. My sweet summer child, Bradley, although, again, my condescension's so unwarranted because you're still ahead of me. Bucks +4 didn't happen. Chargers +2.5. Packers -4.5. None of
week
those
18 was
happened.
tough.
Yeah,
week 18 was tough. I thought Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers were going to give me some. I thought
they pulled Brady at one point.
Yeah, I thought I was reclaiming them, and I was incorrect.
Yeah.
Wrong week to do it.
I mean, honestly, you were correct for a second on the Chargers game because they did play their starters, much to my chagrin, which is why Brandon Staley should be fired.
He would be on our bad. The Chargers would be on our bad vibes list if they didn't make the playoffs.
I would. Yeah, I'm already furious with them. I hope they fire Brandon Staley because I'm pretty sure Sean Payton would love that job to work with Justin Herbert, so that he could actually work with someone competent at the head coaching position and offensively. That would be wonderful. I'm pulling for that. But regardless, we're in the thick of things there. Same amount of wins, 2-game differential between myself and Bradley. And now we have our picks for the first playoff week. And we're changing things up a little bit. Because games are going to start getting fewer and further between, we're also incorporating over-unders into our lock. So still 3 locks, still 3 picks for the week. But it won't just be against the spread. We're also going to incorporate over-unders for some of this. And both Bradley and I have picked overs and unders as some of our locks. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Boom. All right. Wild card weekend, baby.
Here it is.
All right, let's go with, we both have picks in the Jaguars-Chargers game, which is a really interesting one. People will remember that the Jaguars...
long hair bowl.
Yeah, right. Surfer bro quarterback.
The Surfer Bowl.
Bowl. I think, Justin Herbert's on his way to being a top 10 quarterback, if not already being there right now with the way that he's playing. He's too inconsistent, I think, to cement him in there, but damn is he showing some high-end ability. But I felt I'm going with under 47.5 points. I just felt it was too much, given the fact that because of Brandon Staley's idiocy, the Joey Bosa and Mike Williams both got a little bit banged up in that game, that meaningless game against the Broncos. So they are going to be a bit diminished on, I guess, both sides of the ball, so that can cut both ways. But I am banking on the Jaguars' inconsistency on offense and the fact that Brandon Staley, he does do some creative things on the defensive side of the ball from time to time to confuse the offense. I think that game is going to be not going to be a shootout. And so I thought 47.5 was a little bit too high. So I'm going under, which I hate to do because it's just not the most fun. But at the same time, I could see this being more of a defensive struggle than is being advertised. I know you disagree, but sometimes playoff atmosphere and a playoff atmosphere also encourages defensive play. So that's what I'm banking on.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in either defense, but I do see your point about the lack of some kind of beat up weapons for the Chargers, in the sense that like you said, Mike Williams was literally I think he was literally seen limping off out of the facility, out of the stadium.
Yeah.
After the Week 18 game, Bosa not being fully healthy, I think, is a huge factor, because the Chargers pass rush already is slightly anemic, and to not have the guy who would most likely be the biggest engine of that pass rush is a concern. However, I do think I still do think both of these teams will be able to score. I still think that we still have Austin Eckler, who has the most touchdowns in the across the league. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is really coming into his own and finding his rhythm with his receivers. But I think it's a playoff environment. The Jaguars are at home. I think the Jags have arguably been playing better football than the Chargers have recently. And I just think this is potentially, and I hate to say it because it's a full circle moment. Me, after 18 weeks, betting against my Super Bowl pick. But I just think that the Jags will potentially put another notch in the belt of devastating ways for the Chargers to find ways to lose a game.
Yeah, and we should say Joey Bosa is expected to be a full participant, so it seems like he will be okay, even though he did get his groin kind of nicked up. But it just, and Rashawn Slater will be back for the Chargers, so that's one thing that's a little concerning for your bet. But
I'm just happy. I'm honestly just happy because Slater. I'm happy just that Slater will be playing. But that's enormous.
But if I were to, I think it's a coin flip game. But I would take the Jags if I were to be forced, or maybe I can't. I don't know, because I think we should give our picks for the whole week, and at the end, I need to mull this one over because it's really a coin flip game in my opinion.
I think it is too, which is also why I understand. I think
they are
this
the home team, and they're only a field goal.
I think it'll be close.
They're underdogs, and also I just will say, Brandon Staley versus Doug Peterson. I take Doug Peterson any day.
That's my thinking too. Is just he's a wily, savvy vet coach who really knows how to kind of stifle defenses and find their pressure points. I do think, of course, Staley is a great single game planner. He is a great architect of a single game defense when he needs to kind of be like, how am I going to fool and stifle and trick opposing offenses. It's like two jokers facing off against one another, like two joker cards, like trying to out joker the other guy. Right. So I think it'll be really fascinating to see how it goes. I just really think I've been super impressed by the Jaguars offense in the past few weeks, and I think Lawrence's relationship with Christian Kirk, Evan Engram, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, I just think he's really gotten the most out of those guys, and I think he's ready to make this step. And I just think he also probably has a little bit more health from his receiving core, going in than the Chargers did, which again, like you said, is freaking Staley's fault.
Yes,
because Mike Williams had no business playing that game.
100%.
Joey Bosa had no business playing that game. So but we'll see.
It is notable, just made me think about our Bears discussion, that they had back-to-back first overall picks, the Jaguars, and they just had a ton of money, and they spent a bunch of money in free agency, and now they're in the playoffs.
From worst to first in their division.
The Bears could do that if they just spend and spend smartly.
And the Bears don't even have to fire Urban Meyer to do it.
Yep, there you go.
They're already on third base.
Yeah.
Don't need to fire Urban Meyer. No problem.
All right, well, my second pick for Wild Card Weekend, I'm going Bengals minus 9.5. I was really deciding between the 49ers, who are also 9.5 point favorites, and the Bengals, but I decided to go with the Bengals because I think they're the most complete team in the NFL.
I love the Bengals.
Well, in the NFL, the Eagles also. But the Eagles are just not playing that well right now. we'll see how it all shakes out. The Eagles or the Bengals are, and the 49ers outside of the quarterback position are so unbelievably complete
and deep.
And the
Yeah.
Bengals know this Baltimore team. Baltimore's playing with their third string quarterback, most likely. They just played them last week.
Yeah.
And I think the Bengals are going to be buzzing. They did like the stand-up thing in the whole Damar Hamlin situation, but they've got to be a little bit like, they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, I think, because I think they always think it's the Bills and the Chiefs, the Bills and the Chiefs, the Bills and the Chiefs, and they get short shrift. But they have beaten the Chiefs, and they have their number, honestly. And so I think they're going to be playing with a lot of hunger. They've not lost since Halloween.
Right.
I just think that they're going to take this opportunity to shut down a division rival, and Lou Anarumo will be in his bag against an offense that lacks talent, especially without Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
So on the Athletic Football Show a few weeks ago, Robert Mays and the Ringer's Ben Solak did like a threat index for wildcard teams, and the Ravens were number one, assuming Lamar played, just because of the Lamar factor. But otherwise, they said, which I totally agree with, is that the Ravens, there's nothing intimidating about this Ravens team when Lamar's not playing.
Roquan Smith, sure.
But I mean, a few hard playing guys in the secondary, a great linebacker in Roquan Smith, but the defense as a whole is not that formidable. They don't have a great line anymore, and there is simply zero intimidating wide receiver talent on that team, basically, outside of Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews. And most of the reason that Mark Andrews was intimidating is because of his connection with Lamar.
Yeah.
So with a third string quarterback, not even, as we were saying before, Tyler Huntley, a guy who kind of embodies Lamar's skill set, he's almost kind of like a Diet Coke Lamar, or like a RC Cola Lamar. We're not even getting that guy.
Yeah.
So I just think, like, I think I would be hard pressed to see how truly competitive the Ravens could be in this game, especially with how good both sides of the ball, Joe Burrow, are playing at this point. Alex Kappa being out is obviously not and
Lyle Collins is out. You know,
it's a tough ding for the offensive line, but I still do think this line is legitimately playing better than they were last season. I think they're more enmeshed with one another than they were at any point last season, and I'm saying this now. With that line last season, that bad line that was not upgraded, they went to the Super Bowl.
Yep, so, that's how special Burrow is.
Yeah, so I really think this, and like you said, I completely agree. I think the Bengals might want to stomp out the Ravens if they're going to win this game.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm going with. And I didn't do the 49ers just because I know that apparently there's going to be weather, and I could see Purdy making some mistakes, and also, like, I just think
it's a tall order. It's a tall order for a rookie last pick of the draft quarterback.
I still think they're going to win that game.
Oh, I agree.
But I felt like there were fewer risks by taking Bengals with the big line like this.
So for me, I'm taking the under of 48 points in the Giants-Vikings game.
I love this pick.
I was initially going to take the Giants.
Unfortunately, I love this pick.
But I think it's less of a risk to take the under as opposed to actually take the money line out or the game outright. Because I think this game will be interestingly close, because again, this is an interesting matchup, because I think it's going to be cleverness and guile versus specific talent. It's going to be Brian Daboll throwing every single thing he has in his bag of tricks at the Minnesota Vikings against the best, in my opinion, maybe the best player in the league, and Justin Jefferson. Like, it is going to be a fascinating matchup, but I think
Adoree Jackson coming back.
And so Adoree Jackson back, so the Giants will have a little bit of a healthier defense, but I'm just thinking that because of that, I think it's going to be a little bit of a game that's won at the margins, because Jefferson can take over, but I have a feeling that talk about another duo of tricksters. Daboll on the offensive side with Kafka, and Wink Martindale on the defensive side. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting matchups, a lot of simulated pressures, a lot of blitzing, a lot of swarming Justin Jefferson to make Kirk Cousins make throws that he might not want to make. And I think as a result, it's going to be a little bit of an uglier game. So I'm not thinking that it's going to be super super high scoring.
Their last matchup, most of the points were scored at the very end. And it still wasn't as high scoring as like Vikings games have been traditionally.
No,
so.
I think right because that was the game decided by the field goal at the Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm thinking. I'm excited for this match. I'm excited for the rematch because that was a very close, entertaining game.
Wasn't a Thanksgiving game, but yeah.
Why was I watching with? Who was I watching?
Cowboys were on. The Giants was Thanksgiving, so just
forget
it. Yeah, it was.
I thought it was a holiday game for some reason.
Yeah, it was only 3 weeks ago, I think, that game.
But I think that this will be a close game, but not like a super like shootout type of game.
I feel like I'm going to be sick just hearing you talk about it. Here's why I think you're right about the under. The Giants, I think they kind of made a mistake a little bit in the game. Well, they made a few mistakes. First of all, Bellinger fumbled in the red zone. Daniel Jones threw an interception in that game as well, even though it's very rare for him this year to do that.
Sorry, it was the Christmas Eve game.
Yeah,
that's why I was watching with my family.
I
was like, why was I watching with my dad?
It's fine.
I very rarely watch.
And by the way,
I don't get a lot of opportunities.
For some reason, I was on vacation, and yet I still looked at ticket prices for the Minnesota game, which I was never going to actually go. But
sorry, guys.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. But it is like it's way cheaper to get playoff tickets than it is to get like standard regular seats at MetLife to see a Giant game.
Oh, right, I'm sure.
and it's a way cooler stadium with way more.
It's a dome, right?
Yeah. Character. I just get nervous talking about it. I think that the Giants are going to run with Saquon more because I think they fell into a like game plan that was less. They were like, wow, this secondary's terrible. It's fucking trash. Let's just throw. And Daniel Jones threw more than he had all year basically. And to that point, I mean, he might have outpaced himself with the Colts game, but I forget. I don't think so actually. So they threw a lot on the Minnesota Vikings, but they could have run the ball a little bit more. And I think they're going to try to keep they'll play a more ball possession a time of possession game this time around and try to get Saquon to go off because that defensive line isn't very good either except for rushing the passer. So I think that bolsters your point, which is just more of a ground game will keep that point total to a little bit lower.
I just really think from both ends we're going to see some weird stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some shenanigans from Dable and Kafka. I think there's going to be some pony sets with Breida and Saquon. I think we're going to see some trickeration. We might see Feliciano getting a touchdown.
Andrew Thomas has caught one before.
Yeah, I just think
last year
Dable has been coaching with some of the biggest balls in the league the entire year, and I don't see why, especially in the first Giants playoff game and since 2016, I think is that right or is it? How many years has it been since the last Giants playoff game? Was it
2016?
2016.
It was the boat game.
Right, the boat game that I think
last playoff win was the Super Bowl.
Right. So last win was 2011
in Indianapolis. It was 2011, 2012.
Right, 2012 season. That I just think like. He's going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So I just think it'll be an interesting game, but I'm not thinking it might be. I don't think it's going to. I'm just not seeing it being like 38-31.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
I can't believe they're in a playoff game.
Isn't it exciting though? Well, do you more feel like I felt miserable when the Mets were in the playoffs? So I'm not a good person to ask because I'm psychologically.
I keep telling
damaged,
myself that it's all gravy and I just don't really care, but. I really just want them to win this game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I missed an opportunity to shit talk Matt today, Vikings fan. Not that he
Tomorrow.
cares more about like basketball, but I really want them to win this one. I don't care. If the 49ers win, they'll get beat down by the 49ers. So
right.
Winning this and seeing Daniel Jones have that success, seeing like these guys that have been through hell. I mean, I know this is kind of an aside, but they were showing DJ and Saquon on the sidelines, or it was Daniel Jones talking to Nick Gates, and he was like, "We've suffered enough," which is a rare thing that you hear from the robot, like actually acknowledging that things are difficult.
Right.
And the fact that the MetLife crowd was cheering Daniel Jones.
No, it was nice, and also to give Dable to give him the moment to give him for him to come out of the game.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Not that the Giants are going anywhere, but I want that one playoff win for this
I totally
team.
get it.
And
even when the Knicks were in the playoffs in 2021, like it was partially when the Hawks series started. I was like, oh, it's all great, but then literally I was like, I would individually murder every player on the Atlanta Hawks myself with my bare hands.
They had that one win, and like it was,
I was
game
miserable.
2.
I was miserable the entire game.
Yeah,
they had the lead, they lost the lead, they had the lead, they lost the lead, then they won. I literally was like, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah,
I don't even care. Just get me out of here.
Yeah, right.
Get me out of here. So I get it. It's hard.
Win. Yeah.
It's hard for it to just be like, oh, whatever happens, because then you're there and you're like, oh my god, I want them to win. Yeah. So I understand. It's always an interesting time when your team is actually competitive.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, this final pick for both of us is quite interesting. Let's just tackle this together because we're going head to head, baby. I'm taking Brady and the Bucks plus 2.5 at home, and Bradley's got Dallas minus 2.5.
This is a ballsy pick for me. This is me betting on a lot of really unknown quantities.
Well, they are the more high end team. They have better talent.
I'm betting on Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy in an away game against Tom Brady in the playoffs.
Here, let me make my case. Dak Prescott's looked like shit these past 3 or 4 weeks. Like, really not played well. Shockingly so. And I'm a Dak defender.
And against, I mean, the Commanders have a great defensive line, no question. But like they lost sort of embarrassingly.
They did. I mean, I know that they have their 5 seed locked up, so they were kind of just messing around. But
you don't want to look like that going into the playoffs.
Right.
I feel like that's the thing. Like,
and
that's
the division rival where you were still playing your guys. It wasn't the Giants situation
Dak
where they had
playing.
Davis Webb out there,
right?
Right. I feel like there is a virus in the Dallas Cowboys organization, and that is Mike McCarthy and his lack of discipline. We saw it last year when they ran that damn quarterback draw and were bitching after about how the refs like didn't get the ball spiked in time.
Although that is the rule.
That's the rule.
That's just the rule of the game. Everyone knows it.
Right. But they were and they were outplayed the whole game by the 49ers. They did not deserve to win the game either. So the fact that they had this entitlement after the game, I was like, well, this smells like Mike McCarthy, who's he's undisciplined. He's a bloviator. He gets his teams to play hard to an extent, but they don't have a lot of control over their manner of play. And that also filters into his inability to manage clock and late game situations. Brady and the Bucks have not played well at all this year, but who knows how to handle late game situations? Tom Brady.
And also there's a certain level of health that's coming back to this team at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Evans had played easily his best game a few weeks ago when he went for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns on literally just the play calling there was literally Mike, run straight.
Yep.
And Godwin is back. Donovan Smith on the line is back. Their line is slightly more healthy than it's been all year. Russell Gage is healthy. They're much more at full strength than they have been the entire season. And like you said, if he's going to show up at any point, if he's going to show up in any game, he's going to show up in a playoff game.
So why are you taking the Cowboys? Because they have a better
better
high end talent.
I'm just thinking that I'm still, despite the Commanders game, I'm still bullish on the defense. But they've been shit since the Jaguars game. I don't think even though the line is healthier, I'm still taking Micah Parsons over in a matchup against Donovan Smith and a matchup against Luke Goedeke or Connor Hainsey or whoever's playing for the line.
I hear that.
And if he's getting the other thing I'm going to take, which is a little bit less tangible, if they get some pressure if the boys get some pressure on Brady has the temper right now of he has a hair trigger right now. Like anything will kind of push him off balance a little bit.
I just took the Bucks money line on my phone.
And that's a little bit of a power move during the show.
Sorry,
really
I just wanted to make sure the line didn't move.
You're really trying to intimidate me, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's not working. I'll let you know. The other thing is I guess I'm also just thinking that I don't think that this offense is completely defined or completely constrained by the Commanders game. I don't think that Dak necessarily is that quarterback and will be that quarterback in a playoff game, even in an away playoff game. It's not even like it's going to be bad weather. They're going to be in Tampa Bay. I'm not worried about that. I just think if Dak can do what he does best, which is read the game really quickly, not make mistakes, and find his guys who have been playing pretty well. I mean, he's gotten good looks out of his tight ends and Peyton Hendershot and Drew Ferguson. CeeDee Lamb has become a really clear number one for them, which I think has been really encouraging. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, if the line's there and Tony Pollard is working, like the Tampa Bay run defense has not been what it has been in years past.
Yeah,
it's been good, but the Bucs defense entirely hasn't been what it has been in years past. So I'm just hoping that in a playoff environment, the best aspects of the Cowboys offense will come out, and essentially the other part of it, which I'll admit to you, I'm simply just praying that Mike McCarthy does not somehow lose this game for this team.
Yeah,
I do think it'll be close.
Here's my other wrinkle here. I saw someone point this out on Twitter, I think, that the Cowboys play a lot better on turf because they're a speed-based defense.
Oh, interesting.
Grass stadium in Tampa.
Fuck. I'm undeterred.
Look, on paper, they're the better team.
Watch out for Noah Brown, guys. Noah Brown's good.
But the idea that I'm a Brady hater notoriously. But I've had a gut feel.
This would be a game he would win. This would be a game he would win without question. I completely agree. And listen, that's why I took them last week. That's why I've taken them a few times. I've bet against them a few times, but like I've never been fully out on the Bucs.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's like, I just always think he's going to be competitive.
I mean, I think if they win this game, they're getting crushed next week.
Right. But, if they're going to win one game, they'll win this one. That's my concern. But at the same time, sources have told me that Mike McCarthy has been in high leverage situations, practicing not throwing both of his challenge flags after the 2-minute warning with no timeouts. I think he's ready for the situation. I think he's ready for the postseason. I think he's been working on this game. He's ready.
Yeah,
Mike McCarthy is ready.
This is really a battle between teams that people and teams I hate more than anything.
It's such a funny matchup. It's absolutely hilarious.
Matchup. First, I hate the Cowboys more than any team in the NFL. I hate Brady so much, and I've documented that. Well, I understand he's the GOAT, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean he's a good person or a good whatever. Or if not, a little bit overrated.
He's just been a dick this season. He's just been annoyingly a dick. I think he's always is, but yes. He's had a visible tantrum every week. I thought it would stop at some point, and I'm like, bro, you gotta relax.
Yes.
You're 45 years old.
I know.
Chill out.
He might be a little tense because he might have lost some money, colluding with his corrupt criminal buddy Sam Bankman-Fried. But that's a whole different situation.
Lost his family.
That whole situation. Yeah, because of selfishness. It might be so again, my Brady hate is outweighed by my despising of Mike McCarthy from Aaron Rodgers' prime. My Aaron Rodgers love and agenda was born out of my hatred of Mike McCarthy.
And he might be
the fact that he went to the Cowboys, my most hated team. It's like mother's milk to me. I had to pick against them.
And I'm nervous also that my other thing is that I'm also almost trying to will this into existence is because this happens with a lot of the teams that I root for besides my own actual team. Is I get routinely embarrassed by always buying into the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Last year I was like, this is their year. They are going to do it. They are going to make it to the Super Bowl. And then they can't even get the ball to the.
They're the Toronto
ref.
Maple Leafs.
Exactly. Just they have the cachet, but they just simply have not been able to put it together legitimately since Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They can't embarrass me again. You can't embarrass me again, Mike McCarthy.
We shall see. We shall see.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
All right, let's wrap this up really quickly,
Okay.
though. Let's go through every game, give what we think is going to happen.
Okay.
We don't need to give scores, or maybe let's just give scores.
Yeah, that's fine.
Seahawks, 49ers. 49ers at home. The line is 9.5, 10. I still think the 49ers cover if I were to pick. So
I think they're going to beat the shit out of the Seahawks.
I'm going to go 24-13. I'll write it down. I'll write down my scores. You write down yours.
31-10 Niners.
Wait, what did I say? 24-13. Okay. What'd you say?
31-10 Niners.
Okay. Wow. So you think they cover easily?
Oh, yeah. I think they're going to destroy them.
All right, now.
The Seahawks defense is bad.
Moment of truth. This is a coin flip game for me. I'm going to take the Chargers just to be a little bit different and because I think Justin Herbert is clutch and he's been playing a lot better recently. Even without Mike Williams, if he's unable to go or if he's less than 1%. I'm going to take the Chargers 21-17. You're taking the Jags?
I'm going to say 31-28 Jags.
Wow, you really think it's going to be a shootout. So you really disagree with my under. Interesting. Okay, moment of truth. Well, no, Dolphins, Bills. Bills. We didn't even touch on that game. It's so yucky. I mean, the Bills, they're struggling a little bit. They don't have the talents people think they do, especially at receiver. It's Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis just can't get separation. He is not fast. They need a number 2 badly for them. They're like a team of destiny. They might still win this year, but not because they have more talent than the Bengals or the Chiefs.
They'd be winning essentially if they get to the Super Bowl or the postseason. They're winning entirely on the shoulders of Josh Allen.
Yeah. So right. I mean, that's why by this definition of MVP, he's probably the MVP.
If you're really going on most most valuable player to his team, it's probably him. But yeah. I think Mahomes just might get it.
Probably get it because
Mahomes is Mahomes.
Mahomes is incredible. So I'm gonna go Bills. 28-14.
41-7 Bills.
Oh, wow. You're going for all blowouts here. I mean, I haven't cracked 30 yet, which is silly, but I just think
I actually like a few guys on the Dolphins deep. I think Christian Wilkins is a great player. I just think this Skylar Thompson is very bad.
Yeah, I know.
He sucks.
Their run game's gotten a little bit better. The Dolphins, and I feel like they might lean on that more. That might keep it a little closer. Let me change it to 31-14. Is that okay? Yeah, that's just how I feel. 31-14 Bills.
I just think that if there's going to be one game where the Bills just swallow some team whole, it's going to be the Dolphins with their third string quarterback. And it has really no bearing on the Dolphins as a team. It's just they're just going to it's an unfortunate situation for them.
All right, here we go. Giants Vikings. You go first.
2017 Giants.
I'm going to make it a heartbreaker. Or not a heartbreaker, a 21-20 Giants. I might have just fucking jinxed myself.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a weird game. I think it's going to be a weird game.
Okay. Ravens, Bengals. 28-10. Bengals. Don't worry, I have these written down. You just write down yours.
28-3 Bengals.
You want this to be the worst wild card weekend ever. All blowouts.
I have zero faith in the Ravens and the Dolphins to do anything on offense. I think those games are going to be stinkers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, this is what you get, NFL, for expanding the playoffs. I wish we could have just picked those 7
Giants,
seeds.
Vikings, and Chargers, Jags, I think will be legitimately close.
But
those 2 games are going to be we should sim those games.
Next weekend is going to be the real.
Yes, we just need to get
shit.
the Dolphins and the Ravens out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
That's just
I mean, it should have been Steelers as the 7th seed, and it should have been Lions.
It would have been fantastic.
Would have been way more fun.
It's just
because then I guess it still would have been Steelers, Bills, and the Bills would have killed them anyway. But regardless, all right, final game: Cowboys Bucks. I'm gonna go low scoring. I think. No. What's the over under? 45.5. Can you go first? Let me think.
28-23 Cowboys.
Okay. I'm going to say 2017 Bucks.
See, I think these games are going to be good. I think Cowboys, Bucks, Jags, Chargers, Giants, Vikings are going to be legitimately entertaining. I just think like Niners, Hawks, Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals are just going to be,
Yeah. All right.
Wood chipper games.
So do we agree? We disagree on the Chargers and the Jaguars outcome.
And the Bucks, Cowboys.
And the Bucks, Cowboys.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
we did it.
That's
folks.
that.
We did it, Joe.
Please pray for me with the Giants. Like I usually don't predict how the game will go.
You usually also wouldn't have the need to in the last few seasons, but now obviously we're
forced to.
Yeah, we're covering it. Here they are.
Yeah, I was supposed to bring my Plaxico Burress jersey, which I wore for the Colts game and I was going to wear it today, but I forgot. I will be wearing it on Sunday, though. All right, guys. Sorry, no calls today. I should have said that early on.
We had a lot to get to.
We
had a lot of ground to cover.
We will get to a bunch of that on Monday. Another long form episode.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming next week.
Yes.
ESVN flagship Monday.
Yep.
OT Thursday.
Yep.
We're back.
We're back. All right, guys. Please like this stream. Get the engagement up. That would be very lovely. Please subscribe to the channel if you're listening on the podcast, youtube.com/ESVN show. We really appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Yes, good to be back.
Good to be back. Bye-bye.
Oh. Sorry.
Bye-bye.